It's time now for French Connections, our weekly look at the intricacies of life here in France with Florence Villeminot. Hi, Florence.
Hey, Erin.
So the Christmas season is, of course, upon us. So in this week's show, you're going to dive into the festive spirit, explore some of the quirky details about how the French celebrate Noël.
Now, the general idea of Christmas in France is very similar to other countries where they celebrate Christmas. It's a family celebration. It's a moment of peace and harmony and light in the dark of winter. The streets light up with lights. You can see here the Champs-Élysées. You've got decorations in shops. People pull out the tinsel. People have trees here as well. But if you've experienced Christmas in the States or in the UK, you'll have noticed that Christmas is a lot tamer here in France. Although, it must be said, Christmas sweaters are becoming a thing, finally.
I have noticed that. Office Christmas sweater, ugly Christmas sweater parties even. One of the things, Flo, that's particular about Christmas in France is also the day that it's celebrated. The 25th is indeed a public holiday, but the 24th is actually the most important.
That's right. Now, people do get together on Christmas Day for a big family meal, but in France, it's all about Christmas Eve. And this being France, it's all about a particular meal, and that is our word du jour. It's called the réveillon. Now, réveillon means to stay up late because it was traditionally a meal that you had after midnight mass. Fun fact, there's also a réveillon on New Year's Eve. Now, as with all things French, food is a major part of the réveillon de Noël, as you'll see in this segment.
Joyeux Noël!
Christmas is a time of celebration in France. It's a moment when people really blow out on their food budget and taste all the delicious things that France has to offer. And people do tend to splurge on luxury items that are associated with the end of the year.
First up, some traditional appetizers, hors d'oeuvre, which are also known here as amuse-bouche, which translates into fun for your mouth.
And one thing that people particularly appreciate is smoked salmon. Now, people typically eat it on canapes, and they'll usually eat some sort of fish roe. Now, if you can afford caviar, go for it, it's delicious, but there are other budget options as well, such as tarama, which is a creamy fish roe spread, and people tend to eat it on blinis, which is a Russian sweet pancake.
Now, after the appetizers, you have the starters. Foie gras is a big one here in France at Christmas time. It's controversial, it's even banned in some countries, but here in France, it's really a Christmas standard. You usually eat it with toast and with some dried fruit like a fig or jam.
Next, people tend to have some sort of seafood, or seafruit as it's called in France, les fruits de mer. So that can be shrimp or scallops or sea urchins or lobster, but the king of Christmas is the oyster.
And that's just the beginning.
Let's go to the table. Passons à table.
On passe à table. Another Christmas favorite is escargot, or snails. Now, it is a bit of a cliche here in France, but around the holidays, people really do tend to eat them.
And people like to eat escargot roasted with garlic and butter. Now, they might look a little disgusting, but they're delicious. You just have to close your eyes and pop them in your mouth.
Another slightly strange but delicious Christmas dish is boudin.
People tend to think about boudin noir, which is blood sausage, but at Christmas time, people tend to eat boudin blanc, which has all sorts of mysterious things in it we don't want to think about, but it too is delicious. And after all that comes the pièce de résistance, some kind of bird. People tend to have this for Christmas lunch as well. Now, traditionally, it's a dinde de Noël, a Christmas turkey, or a capon, a castrated chicken. Tonight, we chose a guinea fowl.
A guinea fowl with chestnuts, because chestnuts are always a Christmas staple in some shape or form. You could even have them as dessert, sugar-coated marron glacé, if you can stomach it.
Because you still need room for dessert. The traditional Christmas dessert is the inescapable bûche de Noël, the Yuletide log. It's a logged-shaped, delicious cake that you can buy at a boulangerie, or you can make one like you did, Jeannie.
I certainly did, and it's all about the kitsch decorations. There's the little Christmas Santa, there's the Christmas tree, all sorts of plastic decorations to make it look like a log in a real forest. And what does it taste like? Well, it can be chocolate like this one, but also hazelnut, chestnut, fruit, you name it. The Christmas réveillon meal can last up to 6 hours in some cases, and it is truly a tradition here in France.
And it's an unforgettable moment for children, too.
Joyeux Noël!
That Yuletide log in particular gave me an appetite, Flo. So once you've had this big, sumptuous Christmas meal that we saw there, when do you finally get to open your presents?
Well, it depends on each family. Some do it on Christmas Eve, and if you have kids, a lot of people do it on Christmas morning.
On a toujours fait le 25 au matin. Ils vont se coucher, c'est le lendemain matin, il y a l'excitation, et puis voilà. Ils se réveillent, à moitié endormis encore.
Moi, dans ma jeunesse, en fait, on les offrait le 24 après la messe de minuit.
Comme ça, on peut les avoir plus vite et on peut commencer à les utiliser le 24.
So gifts on Christmas, pretty universal, but what is particular about France is that traditionally, instead of putting out a stocking, you actually put out your shoes. And this is so that Santa Claus or le Père Noël can put presents in them. And you have to be strategic here. When I was a kid, I used to put out my dad's shoes to make sure I got more presents.
I was gonna say, if you have small feet, you're not lucky. So France, Florence, is a traditionally Catholic country. We heard that man mention midnight mass, which is of course still a big celebration for many here, as is the nativity scene.
That's right. And if you've spent some time in France, you might have noticed these nativity scenes. They're called crèches in places. They depict, the birth of Jesus with Mary and Joseph. Now, they often feature things called santons, which are these terracotta figures that come from the Provence region. And the reason they come up time and time again in the public debate is because there's often a debate about where they should be displayed, and should they be displayed in places like town halls, so official places, because after all, France is a secular country. Now, in 2016, France's highest administrative court, the Conseil d'État, ruled that nativity scenes are compatible with state secularism, laïcité, as long as they fulfill a cultural, artistic, or festive purpose. But as you'll see, the issue remains very divisive.
Chacun a sa liberté de religion et de culte, mais on est dans un pays laïque et moi ça me dérange franchement que les mairies accueillent ce genre de symboles religieux.
Pour moi, c'est pas un problème. Je ne sais pas si ça dérange les autres, mais pour moi, c'est pas un problème.
Moi, je suis plutôt pour, on est un pays plutôt de tradition catholique chrétienne et bon, j'ai grandi avec les crèches, c'est toute mon enfance.
On ne va pas mettre une étoile juive ou un symbole musulman ou autre. Pourquoi Voilà, la France n'est pas chrétienne, elle est laïque.
Now, it wouldn't be Christmas without a little bit of controversy either. But on that note, Merry Christmas to you and Merry Christmas to you, Erin.
For those celebrating, Flo, it certainly gives a first debate topic because in my experience, Christmas dinner obviously always includes a big political debate. So there you have it. Florence Villemineau, thank you very much. Well, that's all we have time for. Be sure to check out other episodes of French Connections on our website, france24.com.